In this video, we're going to talk about the different types of data. The first two types of data that we're going to talk about are qualitative versus quantitative. But what we're talking about really, when we're talking about types of data, are what we call variables. These are the characteristics of an individual within the population. So let's say we just finished discussing sampling techniques, and we do a simple random sample. And one of the questions we ask that person is their gender. Another thing that we ask them is their age, their marital status. These are different characteristics, different variables that we're looking at, okay? So one type of variable is what we call qualitative variables. Also, what you sometimes hear as being called categorical data. What these do is these things are attributes that or characteristics that put a individual into a certain group based on that attribute instead of based on a number. Gender, you're either male or you're female. Color, like favorite color, blue, red, pink, purple, green, things like that. Favorite food, tacos, hamburgers, spaghetti, chicken fried steak, that type of thing. Think about qualitative variables as anything that we answer in words. It can be things that we answer in numbers. Let me get to something else real quickly. The other type of variable that we look at is what we call quantitative variables. Quantitative variables, they're going to provide that numerical measure of individuals. Arithmetic can be done on these values, meaning can you average them? Can you add, subtract, multiply, divide them? These are things like heights, weights, inches, even ages, and everything. Okay, so I mentioned that some numbers could be the qualitative. Think about your zip code, okay? That is a number, but we don't average our zip codes. We don't subtract our zip codes. Same thing with phone numbers. We don't do any math to those numbers. Those are just putting you into an identity. Now, like age and everything, we can take our average age. We can see who's older, okay? So that's where the numbers kind of get a little bit tricky. If you're looking at a number, think about, do we take the average of them? Do we add or subtract them? When I played sports and everything, we had numbers on our jerseys. But we didn't take the average of our numbers. We might take the average of our ages, average of our heights, maybe average of points we scored, but we didn't take the average of our numbers. We didn't even say, well, your number's higher than mine. The only reason why we looked at if somebody's number was higher on their jersey was who got called out first whenever starting lineups were called. Different items of that nature. So numbers on jerseys are actually qualitative. They just identify you. That's all they do. So, be honest, I do not know how to pronounce this person's last name, but researcher Elizabeth Kavik, I believe, and others studied factors that affect the eating habits of adults in their mid-30s. And this was done for the psychological explanatory of eating habits among adults in their mid-30s. This was a 2005 journal for behavioral nutrition and physical activity. We want to classify each of these following variables as qualitative or quantitative. Okay? So looking at these, if I look at nationality, when you answer what is your nationality, you answer it in words. So that is automatically going to make it qualitative. Number of children. Now, number of children is a number. Do we look at, well, this person has 3 more children. This person has no children. This person has 2 less children. On average, the class has 2 children each. Yes, we do. So this is actually a quantitative number. Household income in the previous year. Well, household income, yeah, that's going to be quantitative because, yes, we can take the average household income and everything. Level of education. This one kind of depends on what are they asking. Are they asking high school, bachelor's, master's, that type of thing? Or are they asking first grade, second grade, third grade? You don't know. But still, even there, we don't usually average them. So this is going to be a qualitative variable. Daily intake of whole grains, measured in grams per day. Well, we're doing some type of measuring, therefore it's quantitative. Okay, within quantitative data, there are 2 types of variables. There is discrete variables, and there are continuous variables. So, discrete variables are those in which there's a finite number and we can count them. Think about number of books in your car. I guess you could have half a book in your car, but not always. Usually, when we think about discrete variables, they're whole numbers. Not always, but they're things that we can identify set amounts. Number of people in your family. Well, we can't have half a person. You're either a person or you're not. Think about packages of notebook paper that you purchase. You can only purchase a full package. You can't purchase half of a package of notebook paper or half of a pencil. Items of this nature where we have a set value that it can be this number or it can be this number. It can't be anything in between. Those are the discrete variables. Okay? Continuous variables. These are the ones where it can be one value, another value, or anything in between that value. Gallons. Think about gallons of gas that you purchase. Okay? You can purchase 1 gallon of gas. You can purchase 2 gallons of gas, or you can purchase anything in between on that spectrum. You can purchase 1 7/10 of a gallon, 1 7/100 of a gallon, that type of thing. Same thing with weight and height. These are more things that we actually measure instead of things that we count. So counting is going to be our discrete. Measured is going to be our continuous. Now, it doesn't mean that something is discrete because it doesn't change, or something is continuous because it does change. Even though things fluctuate, that has nothing to do with their type of quantitative variable. It's discrete because we know a set number. We can't go in between, okay? Continuous is because, well, we can go halfway in between, or we can go 5/8 in between, or we can go 7/16 in between, that type of thing, okay? So the same researcher wanted to study those eating habits, and so they also asked the people about the following variables that we know are quantitative. You know, those 3 variables that we looked at up here that were quantitative, these 3 values. And so now we want to know, are they discrete or continuous? So number of children. I can have 1 child, I can have 2 children, I can have 3 children. Can I have 1 and a 4th child? 1 and 2/8 child? Or 1 and 3/16 of a child? No. Therefore, this is going to be a discrete variable. Household income in the previous year. Most of the time when we look at household income, it's like 50,000, 23,000, things like that. But can it be 48,729? Yeah. Can it be that your household income was $49,725.83? Somebody else's could have been 84 cents. Notice, I can have anything in between when we're talking about money. So this is actually going to be a continuous variable. Then daily intake of whole grains measured in grams per day. Okay, so we're measuring it. That kind of gives me a little bit of a clue because remember, measured values are continuous. And think about whole grains. We tend to think that it's whole values or anything, but it's really not. It is a continuous value. So the list of observations a variable assumes is called data. So just a list of them is data. We have qualitative data. That's just data based on qualitative variables. We have quantitative data. In other words, the data values are actually the values that we collect, the observations that we collect. Whether it's a variable that's continuous, a variable that's discrete, a variable that's qualitative, that's just as a group looking at it and everything. So discrete data and continuous data. Okay, I want to look at this example because it talks about, it doesn't talk about media players. We changed that, I apologize. It actually talks about the states and their minimum age for driver's license and some other restrictions. So if we look at this, the individuals are the different states. So these are the individuals that we have asked the question of. Okay, let me make that a little bit cleaner. Where I'm writing, I apologize. So let's see here. These are the individuals. So you could list out the 5 individuals. Identify the variables. Determine whether each variable is qualitative or quantitative. And then if it's quantitative, is it discrete or continuous? So the different variables are the different questions we asked of those states. Minimum age, mandatory belt use, maximum allowed speed. These are the different variables that we're looking at. So these would be the three different variables. Now then, minimum age, quantitative or qualitative? It is quantitative because yes, we do say that one has a higher age than the other, or we can average the ages, that type thing. And since we are talking about the age at or age for receiving driver's license, this is actually a discrete value because the minimum age that you can get your driver's license is 17 in Alabama. It's not 16 and 7 months, 3 days, it's 17. That is the minimum age, okay? So in this case, what we're talking about, age in general is usually a continuous variable. But here it is a discrete variable because we're strictly talking about the minimum age that we can allow. Mandatory belt use seating positions. This means, does everyone have to use a safety belt? Or does only one person have to use a safety belt? That type thing. Is this is this qualitative or quantitative? It is qualitative because we have either the front position, all positions, the back position, that type of thing. It's not a number that we can look at. The maximum allowable speed limit. Well, that is quantitative. And when we're talking about the maximum allowable speed, well, the maximum speed is 70 in Alabama, as well as Indiana and North Carolina. Is the maximum speed going to be 69 3/4? No, it's going to be a single value. So actually, the maximum speed in this case is also discrete. And again, you have to look at what they're talking about and identify, are we looking at, how are we identifying it? Okay. The last thing that we want to look at there are 4 levels of measurement. These are 4 qualitative values that we specifically look at. There are 4 different levels. We only identify 2 of them. The other 2 are your ratio and your interval that are more for your quantitative data. Let's look at the 2 levels of measurement for qualitative data. The first is what we call nominal level. This level, they're just labels, they're just categories. There is no specific order, there is no rank to them. These are like your yes/no questions. Your favorite colors. Well, there's no order to how we identify the colors. Social Security number. Really, those aren't in order. And zip codes. We don't think of those as being in order. So nominal are just categories, and you can be put in different categories. Then we have ordinal level. Ordinal, it has some type of order to it. Grades, your A, B, C, D, F grades, first, second, third grades. Rows in a theater or at a baseball game, those have specific orders. So those are going to be considered ordinal. So a study was conducted to assess school eating patterns in high schools in the U.S. The study analyzed the impact of vending machines and school policies on student food consumption. A total of 1,088 students in 20 schools were surveyed. And let's see here. We want to identify the variables and determine their level of measurement. Okay, so whether or not the school has a closed campus policy during lunch. So let's think about the possible answers for a question like this. Closed campus. Could be a yes, no. It could be an open, closed. Those type of things. That is going to be categorical. But now, is it nominal or is it ordinal? Does it have an order? Doesn't really have an order. So this is going to be nominal. Because there is no order to a yes-no question, or even an open-closed question. Now, class rank, notice this word right here, rank, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. This makes it where it is categorical. It's still in categories. But now, because we're looking at rank, it is an ordinal variable. So I'd like for you to practice these, and then let me know if you have questions.